Dear students, in the last presentation we have completed unit number 1, and in that unit number 1 we have completed the water requirement, utilization of water, and very important concept, that is population forecasting. And in that population forecasting we have completed 9 methods of the population forecasting. After this unit number 1 we have also discussed on the water treatment, so that is unit number 2nd. And in that water treatment we have completed the physical unit and chemical unit. In that physical unit we have completed the principal application and their designing aspects of various physical units, that is screening, barometer, then clarifier, clarification, etc. And in chemical treatment, sedimentation, coagulation, flocculation, then disinfection, these are the important unit operations as well as processes we have completed in the unit number 2nd. Now today we are going to discuss about what exactly the biological treatment. So in this biological treatment we will see the the methods of the biological treatment. So this actually particular uh, topic coming under the unit number 3, and in this unit number 3 we will discuss the aerobic treatment, their principal application, and the designing aspects of the activated slash process designing aspects of various aerobic treatments such as activated slash process, aerobic ponds, oxidation ponds, stabilization ponds, anaerobic treatment such as the trickling filter, rotatory biological contactors, continuous stirring tank reactor, USB, fluidized bed reactor, their principal application and the designing aspects, as well as their advantages and disadvantages, merits and demerits. Uh, so we will see one by one the concept of biological unit, and secondly what are the treatments coming under this biological units. So for this particular unit I have used the presentation from the internet, that is biological wastewater treatment. So the author is Dr. Thai. So uh, he has given a nice presentation on this particular unit. Okay, so the next is if you see in the wastewater treatment, so the this biological treatment is a nature gifts. there's there's no any chemical as well as uh, what is it, mechanical action involved in this particular treatment. Whole method is based on the biological activity. So whatever the written part from the preliminary and primary, that is removed in the biological treatment, means overall 40 to 60% is removed from this particular unit operation as well as unit process. So in this presentation we will see the source of water, then introduction, processes, application, and the last is the conclusion of the unit. Okay, so one by one we will see. As we know, important is water, and we know the importance of water, and we have seen this particular importance in the unit number 1. As we know and aware about this, 97% of water is covered by the ocean, and which is not useful. But nowadays, day by day, technologies are coming and they are converting into the desaline water. So also the 2% of glaciers. So most of the researchers or research organizations, they are also thinking on this particular resource. So the rest of the 1% of water which is in the form of the rivers, lakes, and the groundwater, so that is not in pure form, but we have to conserve that water, we have to protect that water, we have to treat that water and recycle and reuse for our day-to-day life activities. Okay, day-to-day life as well as the activities. Why treat the wastewater? So the very important is the water is required for the human activities when they use, which is almost or always it is generated in the form of the waste, which is not useful for the again to the human being, but that can be usable to the other things or other activities also, like washing, cleaning, as well as for the agriculture activity. Even though we can use that water for the other industrial purposes. So after the generation of wastewater, we can treat that wastewater. Then after the treatment, you, with reference to the standards which is given by the pollution control board, we can dispose our discharges into the environment. That in that environment we can dispose our discharges into the land, as well as we can discharges or disposal into the raining water bodies, as well as the stagnant water bodies. If you don't have the running water bodies or the stagnant water bodies, then you can choose the option third is a land treatments. So that land should be away from the societal area, societies or the urban, as well as from the residential areas. After the environment, so again that treat, and then again it is reused, or we can generate, or we can what do you say, that the increase the water level by using the wells as well, through the wells as well as the bore wells. Okay, so why we treat that wastewater? Because the main purpose is to reuse and to protect this particular 1% of the water for our day-to-day life requirements. So the in that particular requirement is the human health, environment, and the biodiversity. So all these three aspects are mostly depends on this particular resource. So these are the again the sources of the water. So fresh water, nutrients, and the energies, these are the main sources. Wastewater, which is coming from the household, we call as a domestic wastewater. Wastewater or water which is coming from the agriculture, we call as agriculture runoff. Water which is coming from the various types of the industries, when they discharges after use, or after they are used, when they discharges into the from the industry, then we can say that it's a industrial effluent, or we can say the effluents which is coming from the industries. So this is what the sources of water. What exactly in the wastewater? If you see the composition of the wastewater, so most of the thing we generally call as the organic and inorganic matter. So what exactly in the organic and inorganic matter? So mostly the excessive nutrients like phosphate, nitrates, then hazardous substances, viruses, and pathogens, which also consist of the heavy metals. This wastewater also composed of the oil and greasy material, even though other substances which is in the form of the plastic material, which is in the form of the plant leaves, or we can say the dust particle, even though silt particle, etc. Okay, now we will focus on what exactly the biological treatment and why it is important. As we know, the biological treatment is the treatment which can treats the water by using or with the help of microorganisms. That treatment is called as the biological treatment. So use of microorganism to remove the contaminants. So as we know, the contaminants in the form of organic and inorganic things, so that can be removed, or that can be accumulate the microorganisms from the wastewater. So in this particular treatment, you have to choose the bacteria, you have to choose the bacteria which can consume the maximum organic matter or inorganic matter, which can remove the contamination from the water or wastewater. These bacteria are remarkable ability because they are absorbing, they are consuming a lot of the unwanted things which is in the form of the toxic, and the bacteria, they are consuming for their growth. So second thing, energy from the oxidation of organics for the metabolism and building cells, which are favorable condition for the growth also. This metabolic activity can remove the contaminant also. So generally this biological treatment is used for to the removal of the toxicant from the wastewater, removal of the toxicant from the wastewater. So what exactly in the biological treatment? So there are some species in the form of the pseudomonas, micrococcus, nitrosomonas. These are the main and major microorganisms, bacteria present in the water, and their capacity, their absorption as well as the consuming capacity is the maximum as compared to the other organisms. Okay, so what exactly the process of this biological treatment? As we know, and we have already discussed the sketch, or we can say the the flow chart of this particular biological treatment, where it is located. So this is what in influent. Okay, this influent, which is coming from the industrial discharges, or we can say the from various parts of the industry. When it discharge, it goes to the preliminary unit. So in this preliminary unit, the first unit is the bar screen, or we can say it is a bar rack. After this, it will goes towards the grit chamber. Grit chamber will remove the gritty matter. Bar screen removes the screening things which can be affecting on the next unit operations. After the bar and grit chamber, the next is the clarification or the clarifier. Whatever the retention, the remaining part is there, so that can be removed in the primary clarifier. So simply we call as the sludge, primary sludge tank, or we can say that primary settling sludge tank or primary clarifier. After this is overall the physico-chemical treatment. After this, the second part is the aeration tank. So aeration tank is a tank which has the aerators, and in that aerators aerobic microorganisms are present. And after this aeration tank, it the treated water goes towards the secondary clarifier. So what is the need of this secondary clarifier? So earlier in primary clarifier, whatever the retained or remaining part from the bar and grid chamber, and that can be removed in the primary clarifier. But after the primary clarifier, the second is the aeration tank. So aeration tank, there are some aerobic microorganisms, they are consuming organic matter and they are converted into the simpler forms, organic matter which is in the macro forms. When the microorganism degrading that organic matter and converted into the simpler form, during that time or after their degradation, whatever the retained or remaining part is that, so that can be in the form of the dead cells or the sludge, so that can be removed in the secondary clarifier, so that the water becomes clear, and clear water goes towards the next unit operation, that is the tertiary treatment. So in that tertiary treatment, it is disinfected. Then the treatment like the membrane bioreactors, so they can remove the sludge, or they remove the color, or even though last part is the odor. After the tertiary treatment, it is disposed on land as well as on the running as well as the stagnant water bodies. So in this particular overall flow chart, you can see the aeration tank, there is a one arrow, and in this arrow in this arrow you can see in detail. Just a minute. A return sludge is there, means aeration tank, treated water will goes towards this secondary clarifier. Rest of the part is returned into the again aeration tank. Huh? Once again I am showing you aeration tank, the treatment water or treated water goes towards the secondary clarifier, and some of the part is again recycled or returned towards again aeration tank. This return activated sludge is called as the activated sludge process. Simply it is nothing but the active mass of microorganisms, and this active type of microorganisms, they are consuming more and more organic matter, and in our side it is very important because they are helping to the removal of organic matter from the wastewater, and the rest of the sludge will goes towards the sludge drying bed. So sludge will be collected at the primary clarifier and secondary clarifier, and the in between, that is the aeration tank. So third is the at this place. So all these three sides of the sludge will collected, and then it goes toward the sludge drying bed or the sludge treatment plant. Okay, so this is already simply explained in this the what to say, that flow chart. This is raw sewage, screens, communitor or barminator. Then after grid chamber to the primary clarifier to again this is aeration tank. Aeration tank, there is two arrows are there. So these two arrows are nothing but the aeration, means the air is passed or air is added into this water. So the purpose of the aeration is to addition of oxygen, which can be useful for the microorganism for their growth, and simultaneously they are helping for the mixing of organic matter into the water, and they can comes in contact with the microorganisms. So treated water goes toward the secondary clarifier to this is again return sludge again mixed into the aeration tank. This is called as what the activated sludge process. In between these two, there is one again return sludge pump. That pump is nothing but the again aerator they have provided, means when it comes through this side, it can again provided them the oxygen so that they cannot dead or they cannot die from this particular area. So the oxygenation is continuously provided for their survival, and after this secondary clarifier it goes towards the secondary to tertiary treatment. Understood? So this is a very simple flow chart where the biological treatment is uh, given. So biological treatment is in this particular space. Okay, aeration tank. Now the next is typical wastewater treatment. If you see the in pre-treatment, what we have removed separate coarse and material, which can separate the coarse material, means the size of the material having the large, so they can remove in this preliminary treatment and primary treatment, or we can say the pre-treatment. The after this coarse material, removal of coarse material, the second is the separate of oily, floating and solids masses or solid species from this particular zone or from this particular primary treatment. Third is removal of suspended solids, organic soluble materials in the secondary treatment. So this secondary treatment is totally based on the microorganism or the degradation of organic matter by using microbes. And the last is the removal of any residual contaminants which is in the very less quantity or less concentration that can be removed in the tertiary treatment. So this is the stepwise treatment and processes of the wastewater. Okay, this is the very simple treatment process. So why pre-treat? So already we have discussed on why it is important, because most of the pollution load is removed in the pre-treatment. That is the main important unit operations are the bar screens or bar racks or rotatory discs or centrifugal forces. They are removing the most of the floating as well as the dissolved material from the wastewater. Now the next is the primary treatment, and that primary treatment also we have discussed in detail. The primary treatment, it is totally based on the chemical treatment, and in primary treatment flocculation, sedimentation, precipitation, disinfection, all these, and even the clarification, all these are the methods involved in this primary treatment. Okay, this is also called as the physicochemical treatment. Okay, now the secondary treatment, which removes the 90% of the organic matter and oil. Biological treatment process during the secondary treatment. The biological clarification is important in this biological treatment. So in biological treatment, there are three major processes involved in the biological or biochemical environment. So which are these? So first is the aerobic, second is anaerobic, and third is anoxic. So anoxic is nothing but the combination of aerobic and anaerobic, means the 50% of aerobic and 50% of anaerobic is called as the anoxic. Aerobic means this is the process which is totally based on the oxygen based microorganisms, or the the degradation of organic matter in presence of oxygen is called as the aerobic treatment, or the in aerobic environment. Anaerobic means the degradation of organic matter in absence of oxygen. The, in absence of oxygen, that process is called as the anaerobic process or anaerobic treatment. So there are some bacteria, they don't require the oxygen, but there are some organisms they require the oxygen for their survival, and there are some organisms they require sometimes oxygen, or sometimes they don't require the oxygen, that is called the anoxic. Okay, so all three methods involved or present in this biochemical environment or in the secondary treatment. As we have already discussed what is exactly activated sludge process. So in this activated sludge process, so wastewater which is firstly coming from the primary clarifier to the aeration tank, to next is the secondary clarifier. So activated sludge process, the meaning is very simple: active mass of microorganisms. So there are microorganisms, they are in actively form or actively present in that treatment. So they are degrading very fastly, they are supporting to the treatment, or they are increasing the efficiency, pollution removal efficiency in the overall treatment. So in wastewater which is coming from the preliminary primary clarifier to aeration tank, there are various types of the aerators we can provide. There are again three types of the aerators: combined type, then submerged type, and floating type. So here you can see there are submerged type of the aerators are provided. So the submerged type of the aerators means the aerators or aerations, air is provided at the bottom, is called as the submerged. When air is provided at the top side, then it is called as the surface aerator. And when the both the both the processes, or both the aerations, or both type of the aerations provided in the tank, that is from surface aerator as well as from